Well, hey everybody, my name is Mark Miller, and welcome to another episode of Always Good News. So glad that you're jumping into this conversation. It's going to be very good and encouraging. So we'll just give it a few minutes for some people to join us. Hope you can stick around for the whole conversation. I think it's going to be good. Lisa, good to see you. Good to see everybody as we jump in as well. Gonna have a great conversation tonight. I pray it encourages you, and I know you will be encouraged. So stick around for the entire conversation. And if you're watching on YouTube, click subscribe. And hey, why don't you let us know where you're watching from? We always like to know where everybody's tuning in from, so all around the world. If you're here in Canada, if you're in a different country, let us know the city. Just type in the comment box on the very bottom. Let us know where you're watching from. Hi, Sarah. Hi, Linda. Good to see you. Kelly, good to see you. Good to see everybody jumping in. And welcome to Always Good News. Jacksonville, Alabama, I guess that is. Good to see you. Alberta, awesome, representing. Amanda, good to see you. Welcome, everybody. You know, before we get started tonight, before I add my special guest, these are challenging days, to say the least. You know, I was just reflecting today. There's just so much darkness, so much grief and pain, and so many heartbreaking situations. I'm thinking about what's going on in Afghanistan. It's just absolutely heartbreaking. And, you know, in the country of Haiti, hit by another horrific earthquake, and so much pain and loss. And, you know, we're just praying. We're praying for our brothers and sisters in Christ all over the world who are facing incredibly difficult situations. And, you know, these are dark days, but let me just encourage you tonight that God has promised to never leave us, to never forsake us. And we know that He's an ever-present help. He's ever-present. He's Emmanuel, God with us. And doesn't mean we're not going to face challenges and difficulties and heartbreak and loss and pain and so much grief that seems to be gripping the world right now, but we can trust in our God. And so we look to Him. You know, my prayer is that, God, would you have mercy? May your kingdom come. May your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And maybe you're watching right now and your life is being shaken and you're in a place of grief or turmoil or pain or loss or frustration or hurt, whatever the case may be. Let me just encourage you, keep your eyes fixed on Jesus. Keep your eyes fixed on Jesus. Can I read you a verse? Romans 15:13 says, I pray that God, the source of hope, our hope is in the Lord, will fill you completely with joy and peace because you trust in Him. And so we know Scripture tells us there's a peace that comes when our trust is in the Lord. Then you will overflow with confident hope through the power of the Holy Spirit. So be encouraged with that Scripture tonight. Hey, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, click subscribe and let us know where you're watching from in the comment box. Let us know what city, what country, where you're joining from tonight. And let me go ahead and add our very special guest and jump in. Welcome to all. So glad you're here. And my guest will be joining us momentarily. Here she is.
Hi.
Hey, Nicole, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm good. So good to kind of see you.
I know. Hey. No, I seen you on the airplane the other day. Did you fly over Alberta? Did you come to Alberta?
I was in Alberta, yes. First trip in like over 540 some days.
I stopped counting. Just too sad.
Yeah, I know. Well, Nicole, thanks for taking time. And I'm going to give you an official introduction, but a lot of people that are jumping on might know you, maybe they don't. So let's give you that proper introduction. And then if you want to say more, or maybe let them know how you and I know each other and how our history goes back. But hey, if you're watching right now and you don't know Nicole, she's a storyteller, a communicator, a gifted communicator, I might add, an advocate from the East Coast of Canada.
Woo!
All right. You
Newfoundland.
know, for the last 15, what's that?
Newfoundland, Canada.
Newfoundland, Canada, as far east as you can go in North America. But over the last 15 years, Nicole's traveled all over Canada, the U.S., and really the world with a confident message of genuine love and redemption, speaking to thousands of people. I know that's her heart. the power of their story. And I know that, Nicole, you'll probably mention this later, but a lot of this, these passions of yours for storytelling and the gospel and encouraging people was really discovered on a missions trip when you were 13. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Incredible. And I know that you feel like, and you'll probably get into this, but it was during those moments that that passion was kind of unlocked in you, and you continue to spend your days spreading love and inspiring movement and using your voice for change. And you are also married to a legend, Christian Emmanuel Victory. What a name. I just got to put that full name out there. I mean,
I know, they should have just named him Jesus. I say that all the time.
what a name.
Yeah.
Married to Christian, they live in Edmonton, Alberta. So that's the official introduction. But Nicole, you are a good friend of mine. I love you so much. Our lives cross paths, like, I was just thinking, like, how many years has it been? And it's the amount of numbered years that when we say it, we're both going to feel really old, particularly me.
How many years has it been?
You tell me. How old were you when, I got to tell them, I was Nicole's first youth pastor, I think.
Yes, you were. And the best pastor ever. You and Kelly were amazing.
Wow.
Me and Christian still time, like, you know, when you think of all the people who've really just added so much to your life and just spent time with you and encouraged you. I don't think you and Kelly have ever said anything not encouraging to us ever. And so a lot of who we are today and our passions are because you guys spent time with us and you loved us. So we're huge fans of you guys.
I appreciate that. But yeah, it was a long time ago, like Nicole said, in Newfoundland, one of our easternly most provinces here in Canada, where we, I was starting out as a youth pastor, and this preteen, Nicole, was in my youth group, and, we had so many great memories together. Let me do a little bit of fun here, a little bit of this or that, just to kind of break the ice here, let people know just beyond, the professional introduction of who you are. Let them get to know you a little bit more, a little bit of this or that. Here we go. Coffee or tea?
Oh, coffee.
Of course. It was an easy one, Nicole. I was just starting you off easy. How about mountains or ocean?
Oh, I can't decide because now I live in Alberta, so I don't know, maybe ocean because of the whales. That's probably it. It's hard choice.
Ocean because of whales. All right. Early mornings or late nights?
Late nights.
Late nights. Lazy river or a wave pool?
Wave pool.
Wave pool. Doretta says ocean. Oh, you're getting some hate here from the from those on the coast. All right. Aisle seat or window seat on an airplane?
Window, because then you can lean away from the person next to you. Right.
But then you got to climb it over them.
Yeah, but I'm okay with that. I'd rather do that than have them. I've had too many people lean on me in an airplane, and I need to get away from them. So.
Fair enough. Last one: cat or dog?
Dog.
100%.
It's International Dog Day, everyone. Woo!
I heard that. I heard that today, and I thought to myself, it is International Something Day every single day. Has anybody else noticed this? Every day.
But this is an important day for all the dog lovers out there. So.
Yes, absolutely. So Nicole and Christian have a adorable little puppy. Is it her?
Yeah, her.
Yes, Telly.
She's almost 10. She's so old now. Her face is white. And anyway, we love her way too much. We talk about it all the time. Much.
Well, let's jump in. So great to have you with me, Nicole. Thanks for taking time again. I'm excited for people to hear your story, but I'm also excited for people to hear how you're involved with the Billy Graham team and some of the things that you're doing with our ministry, both here in Canada and also in the U.S. But let's go right back, Nicole. Let's jump into the conversation, hearing about your faith journey. Tell everybody specifically how you became a Christian, but tell us some of your story. Tell us about Nicole.
Sure. I guess, going back a little while into kind of my family history, growing up, I'll tell you a little bit my mom's story first, because she's actually on here now, so I'll brag about her a little bit.
Shout out to you, Linda.
Shout out to my mom, Linda. She's on here today. So my mom, many years ago, was struggling with some physical issues, and she was in bed. She was stuck in bed for weeks at a time because of her back, from some of the different abuse things that have happened to her, and that's her story to tell. But some things were happening, and she was stuck in bed, and a lady who was a friend of hers, started going to church. And she heard that people were supposed to go and pray for people, and they were supposed to have community, and they were supposed to take care of people who were sick or needed help. And so this lady called up her pastor and said, hey, what do we do with sick people? Like, what do we act like? And had learned that you're supposed to come and pray for them and take care of them. And so this lady, who was my mom's friend, her name was Betty Porter. She was the oddest lady you'd ever meet. I mean, she used to walk around with this giant bandage on her thumb, like she had a Mickey Mouse thumb all the time. And I don't think any of us knew if anything was even wrong with her thumb. It might have been more like something else wrong, you know, like she was just a little bit eccentric, a little different. Anyway, she was the one who actually brought someone over to come and pray for my mom. And she came and they spent hours with my mom just trying to help her. And then they tried to help her out of bed. It was the first time she walked in weeks. And my mom realized in that moment that she wanted to be a part of that community, that she wanted to become a Christian, and that she wanted to raise her family in that. And so my mom started bringing us to that church. And, you know, that church for us was, I mean, even for my husband, because his family started going there years later. I started going there when I was around 4 years old. And that church for us, you know, I'm fiercely relational, and it comes from that church being so relational. And they took care of us. They took care of our family, and they were there for us for countless different things. And I grew up knowing that I was loved, and I grew up knowing that God loved me, which I know is a lot different than some people get to experience growing up. They grow up with a lot of shame within the church, or judgment, or all these different negative things. But for me, my spirituality was always really like loved, and you're accepted, and that God just wants to be close to you, and you know, he has great things for your life. And so I felt really blessed growing up in that community, and it really gave me the confidence to be unique and to be different and to try things that weren't normal for, you know, women my age, or, you know, different things like that. So, I mean, growing up for me in a Christian world was just this really beautiful thing. And I mean, not everything was perfect. No church is perfect, but it was really beautiful. And I'm so thankful for my pastor, Pastor Harold. We still talk about how he's our pastor. And he's one of a kind, that guy, for loving people. So, and then you and Kelly, like, really were fundamental in our lives throughout growing up in that too. And yeah, so who I am today is a reflection of people just like you, Mark, and I'm so thankful for it.
Tell us about, because I know we want to talk about some of the training you do with students, with teenagers. Tell me about those teen years in your faith journey and kind of what that looked like, because I know it wasn't always easy.
No, it wasn't always easy. We definitely grew up with different challenges. You know, my parents separated. There's a lot of different issues going on in our home. We didn't always have a ton of money, and, you know, all these different seasons that get really complex. But for me, there was this saving grace moment where, you know, my mom was taking us to church, and we were getting to know people. And I remember going into a church service one day, and a team had just gotten back from a mission trip or a humanitarian trip over in Honduras. And they put all the pictures up on the wall, and I seen all these children, and I seen all these projects going on. And I just felt in my heart, I was like, I think I'm meant to be this person. Like, I think this is me. And it was part of my identity. And I remember going home with my mom later, and I was like, Mom, I think I'm meant to do like humanitarian work. I think I'm meant to go on these trips. And I think that's who God created me to be, is somebody who loves people like that. Like, I have that capacity. And at first my mom was like, I don't think God wants to send you, like, you're 12 years old. I don't think that you're supposed to go to Honduras by yourself with a group of people. Like, I don't think that's the way. And then, you know, Mom has always been such a cheerleader for me in my life with being like all the things that I love. And so I remember talking to her about it. She was like, okay, well then we'll go sit down with Pastor Harold and see what he says, my pastor. And I'll never forget that. I have so many burnt memories of those times in my head, but I remember going into his office and sitting down, and he always had like a little tub of jelly beans on his desk, always jelly beans. And I remember going in there, and I'd always look for like the butter ones. And, you know, we go in, we sit down, and he's like, so tell me what you're thinking. And so I began to say to him, you know, like, I seen these pictures of kids in need around the world, and I just feel like I'm supposed to go, even though I'm a kid. And he stopped and he stared at me, and he's like, well, then you're probably meant to do this. Like, this is probably who you are. And I still get like a little teary thinking about it, because so many people thought I was so young, or how can you know what you want to be when you're young, or what you want to do? And he was okay with it, and it gave Mom that piece of, okay, well, you know, maybe this would fit. And so, you know, after fundraising, we had to fundraise so much. Like, I made so many baked goods and everything else to get me over on that trip. But I found myself on this trip, and I did everything from, I mean, we worked in really, like, it just fierce poverty, guys, like the kind of poverty that kind of scars you when you leave. And Mark, you've experienced that with your trips, where you come home and you just are in disbelief of what people live in. We were up in the mountains working with kids. We had to de-lice them because of the conditions there for cleanliness or hygiene was just non-existent. And so we had to delice these children, and I was a child and I was delicing children the same age as me, and their hair was covered in bugs, like covered. And we would work with a man who worked with kids on the streets who had to carry around garbage bags full of gasoline and would huff the gas to kill their hunger pains. And then they would have to go out and prostitute themselves just to survive. And that was me at age, I was 13 by the time I got there. And that was my experience with poverty. Wow. And I, you know, we met lots of different kids, but I found myself one day in a Burger King sitting across from this young girl. Her name was Maria, and she was 13 years old, just like I was. And I was sitting across from her, and we were eating burgers. And before I had got there, the local missionary whose family was trying to adopt this young girl had told me that she was actually one of the girls that lived on the streets, and she had been huffing gas to kill hunger pains, and she's been starving, and she actually had to resort to prostituting herself out to be able to feed herself. And so she was actually going through AIDS testing right now, because if she has AIDS, she wouldn't be able to become adopted. And so this young girl sitting across from me, the exact same age as me, guys, the exact same age, we're eating burgers, but we live on different planets. You know, her whole life has been extreme poverty and no hope, and just resorting to the most awful things. And I was sitting across from her just staring at her, because all I could think of was, there's been times where I was being raised by a single mom, and I used to think I was poor. I used to think, you know, I didn't have enough money to go on school trips, or I didn't have this or this or that, or, you know, my mom always tried her best for us, but sometimes we just never felt like we had the same as other people. And I remember looking at her and thinking to myself, I used to think that my life was limited and that I couldn't do great things. But after experiencing that with her and sharing that meal with her and getting to know her, I realized that where I live, I have so much that I can do with my life. I have so much that I can create or work for or fight for, and I can use my voice to actually help people. And so it literally changed the direction of my life, where I came back from that experience, and I was really, we use the term in our home all the time, we're ruined for the ordinary. We do the weirdest things that most people in culture do not do, because we just love people and we love their potential and we see their value and it's worth fighting for. And so I came home with that zest in my life of like, okay, I'm meant to actually fight for people, to be a voice, to help them create their own voice so they don't need my voice anymore. And so that's really what I've dug into throughout the last, since coming back. I mean, I was 13, I'm 31 now, and I spent my life on it, and I'm thankful for it.
Yeah, and Nicole, that's awesome. What strikes me too is just knowing you personally and your story too, is that, you know, life wasn't even close to perfect for you, and life isn't close to perfect. I started this episode by referencing some of the heartbreaking things happening right now all over the world. But as followers of Jesus and the hope that we have in him, you know, there is always hope. And I think what you're kind of alluding to is, no matter what was going on in your life, you know, back home, God captured your heart first and foremost and lavished the love that he has for you. And that love then kind of translated into love for people, you know, and the heart of the father heart of God, you know, that you experience and has healed you and brought you to wholeness. Now you take that same love. And so that's an incredible thing. Nicole, you've done a lot, you know, you've seen a lot of sad things, a lot of heartbreaking things. Can you tell me, is there a couple examples that come to mind, you know, in your travels and some of the missions work that you've done? And has there been some examples where the gospel's really made an impact, but how that's affected your story? I know you just alluded to one with that young girl, Maria. Anything else you want to just touch on in that in terms of the power of the gospel?
I would just, I guess, adding to that, you know, I truly believe that we're all created in the image of God. And that means that all of his characteristics are in us. And a lot of times they lie dormant because we don't activate them. We don't actually go out to experience things that bring that alive in us. So for me, being with people and getting to know people, I always have this saying, the person that I hate the most is how I view how much I'm loving people. Like, that's kind of a weird way of saying it, but the people that I have the issue with the most, if I'm not being loving towards them, which has been really challenging in the last, you know, growing up in 30 years and all that kind of thing. But I always check myself to see if I'm actually loving people, because loving people is not easy. It's supposed to take something. It's supposed to be, you know, this sacrificial kind of love where we build up people that aren't always easy. Just recently, I'm on the board of directors here with a local, they help with homelessness in my city, and dealing with these people and hearing their stories. You know, we had a guy that the director was telling me about the other day, and I came in and was actually meeting the people and getting to know them. And this one guy, he's has a really hard alcoholic issue. He has that addiction in his life, and you never know what you're going to get from him. And some days he comes in and he's very violent, and then other days he comes in and he's super calm, and he wants to help and wants to love on people and be a part of it. And I just found it so convicting, because so many people are like, well, is it safe to have him around? What bars do we, you know, what things do we put up to protect ourselves when we're dealing with somebody like this? And we always think of ourselves. But it made me remind myself that growing up, I had a grandfather who had an addiction problem. And he was the greatest man I've ever known in my whole life. Like, I don't know anybody that tops him for me. He loved us so deeply and so dearly. And his addiction to us was such a small part of his life, because of how well he loved. And so it convicted me, because I was like, I've experienced that love from him, even though he had that issue. So I have to offer that grace to people, that they have the potential to be these incredible human beings. They just need people sometimes just to believe in them and support them and be there. So, I mean, I have a million stories of how the gospel has just changed lives and has changed my own life, but it's really out of the whole idea that I truly believe that God is love, that God is not looking down on us judgmentally or pushing us away or has unrealistic standards for our lives. Is that he genuinely just wants to like walk with us, that I, you know, go for a walk with my dog or go to the ocean and sit down, and I feel blessed by just nature and creation. So yeah.
Well, I mean, one of the probably most world famous scriptures is, for God so loved the world that he gave, and what he gave was his best. I mean, we know that. It's the base of the foundation of the gospel. Tell me, it's powerful, Nicole, and I've just witnessed. I've had a front row seat to see the transformation the gospel's made in your life, and how you've been light and salt, and it's been so encouraging. Tell me about the whole idea of storytelling, because I know that's who you are. You love to tell your story, and you love to pull the story that people have out of them for others. Tell me why you're so passionate about that. Tell me about the power of story and storytelling.
I'm obsessed with story. I love it. I mean, we just recently even did a story brand certification, because we're obsessed with the whole framework of how stories work and how it influences our brains. But most of us will know this, is that we learn in story. We remember in story. I can, you know, think of a million stories that I've heard, but I probably can't think of a lot of the messages that I've heard or this or that, you know, but I remember the stories. I think I was 14 years old, and a ministry group, they were called Absolute Ministries at the time, came through our city. And Crystal Earl, I don't know if anyone knows her, but she's one of my favorite humans on the planet. She got up and she started speaking, and she told a story. I still remember every single detail of that story. And she has mentioned me throughout the years, but we had this conversation of how story actually impacts, because our audience is always looking for themselves in the story. Our intention, communicator, just goes to the communicators out there. Your intention when you're building anything is you want to make the people who you're talking to the hero in your story. How can they see themselves in your story? Because that's what they're going to walk away with, is that impact. And so I've learned, if I truly want to impact an audience, I tell stories. And sometimes they're not great stories. Sometimes they're really hard areas of my life that I share that I don't even let be recorded, because it's a really emotional moment that I talk about something that happened in my life. And it's in those moments that I've had, I mean, so many, especially youth, because I've done so many things with youth throughout the years, but I'll have youth actually come up to me and tell me, hey, like, I was actually, you know, struggling with something really severe, but you made me feel like there was hope. I remember one YC I spoke, and a girl stayed around for like an hour later after I was talking to all these students, and she waited there till the room was empty, and she came up, and this is my second year speaking there, and she came up and she was like, I just wanted to let you know that last year I came to your session, and I was actually debating taking my life. Like, I had the plans laid out of how I was going to, you know, take my life, and I was really struggling with my mental health, and it was planned out, and I came to your session. And because you told your story, and because you told that there's hope, and that no matter what people have gone through, that there's opportunity, and that, you know, our lives are valuable, she said, I decided not to do anything about that. And I'm here today. And she said, I went to rehab and I cleaned up my life. And I'm happy to say, I mean, that was like 6 years ago. She's married now, and she has a kid. And
wow.
like her life is completely different because, not because I'm special or my story is special, but because I decided to be vulnerable and tell a
Yeah.
piece of myself. It wasn't glamorous, but I was hoping that someone would see themselves in it. And
Yeah.
so I just feel like there's so much hope in telling our stories, that people find
Yeah.
themselves. And every time I tell my story, I think of that girl who came up to me and was like, it changed me. It changed the trajectory of my life. And so that's
Yeah.
why I keep.
Well, let's talk about that for a few more minutes, because in terms of, the Billy Graham Association, we all know. Well, first of all, back up. Jesus was just a master storyteller, and he would always, in his stories, the message was so powerful, and just all through Scripture we see it. But even for our organization, the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association, we obviously our focus is on evangelism, telling the story of God, telling the story of Jesus, and training others to share their story and to share the story of God. So, how do you see storytelling, telling your story, which you alluded to? How do you see that in terms of evangelism and sharing our faith in Christ with people that don't know the Lord?
Mm. I guess it changes the intention, Mark, really, for me. I've seen throughout the years, I've been a Christian for over 20 years now, and I've seen the intention of how evangelism has changed. Prior, it was a lot of, knocking on doors, yelling from corners of streets, and very impersonal and very almost like a judgmental
Mhm.
turn or burn. Everything was surrounded about not going to hell, you
Yeah.
know, things like that. And honestly, it's a lot of scare tactics. What I've seen lately, which is changing for a lot of people, is that they're realizing that relationship actually triumphs fear, and which is really beautiful because that's what Jesus was. He actually sat with people. I always say that Jesus preached with his posture. He would lounge with people. He would eat with people. He just hung out with people. He didn't care if their status was humiliating. He didn't care if they were thieves. He didn't care if they were, cheating on their spouses. He didn't care about any of those things. And he did the most beautiful thing and would just have relationship with people. And so I think that's what really draws me to storytelling, is that it's all about sharing a piece of yourself, and it's almost like getting on the same level. In churches, we love to build stages, and don't get me wrong, I the stage is a stage, right? Like I've built a living on walking on a stage, but there's something about making it level so that everyone is on the same page and that you feel like nobody around you is better than anyone around you.
Mhm.
Everybody's on the same page, and so Jesus did a really good job at that. And Jesus even went as far as like the 12 disciples, the people that he hung out with. The guy that he had in charge of the treasury or the offerings was a thief, right? Like Judas was a thief, and he was right next to Jesus, and he took care of the finances. Who in the right mind would do that? So that's why I always say people don't have a problem with Jesus. They have a problem with religion, because Jesus is actually really amazing how he actually treated people, and he
Yeah.
gave them way more chances than they actually should have had.
Yeah.
That's kind of a side note, but I find that just such a beautiful thing. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, that's really where it comes for stories for me. It changes evangelism. It changes how we actually treat people, and we treat them on a relational. I want you to get to know me. I want to get to know you, and I want to walk with you. And so
Yeah.
that really changes everything for me.
Yeah. And over again, we see Jesus was moved with compassion,
Yeah.
right? That was the motive, was his compassion for people, and knowing they were lost in sin, and they needed a savior. It's powerful. Now, you mentioned earlier, and I mentioned that you do some training with us, and we've got some of that training coming up, and that's where you also mentioned you share some of your story. And as we talk about evangelism, and we talk about how do you have conversations with people who don't know the gospel, that they don't know the story of Jesus, how important our story is, how important it is to hear their story. But at some point, it's so important to also bring the story of God into how he's changed. The story of God has changed my story, but how the story of the gospel can also impact their life. Tell us a bit about what's coming up we're going to be specifically in the next few weeks, we're going to be in Sudbury, Ontario, London, Ontario, for an event called FM 419. Tell people what this event is about and what your heart is for FM 419.
So I'm an FM facilitator also, and I get to do that in Canada and the US. I absolutely love it. once again, like I just love young people. So I remember years ago when Chris King had talked to me about doing it, I was just excited. And Mark, you know, you really throw me a bone for that when you're like, oh, you would be perfect for doing this, because I just love young people and I love the potential in their lives. So for FM is just a wonderfully facilitated event where people come, youth come, sometimes their youth leaders come with them, and they sit in and we get to talk about really what God has done for our lives, which isn't a huge surprise for most of these youth because they have come from churches. Some of them are a little bit more green with it or not, but they come in and they learn about like really what God has done for your life. And then we lead them on a journey on how, because the whole intention is how can we actually get you to share your faith with someone, and not in a way that's pushy, or, you know, we use the word dogmatic, or any ways that really kind of pushes it down someone's throat, but how do we tell it in a way where we show the impact that the gospel has had on our own lives, and that we genuinely just want people's lives to be restored, that we genuinely just want people to be able to live their best life. And so we believe as Christians, because we have experience with a God that loves us and sees us and has molded our life, that we believe that to be a really good path forward for people. And so we teach these young people how to actually craft that story and how to go out there and impact their communities and their schools. Because I tell you what, like schools, there's so much going on in society right now, and our young people are really feeling it. And if I can encourage you for anything today, it's like people just notice, who doesn't matter if they're in your church or in Walmart, notice your young people. See them, like go and talk. I make it an effort to go and talk to young people all the time, just in case no one's talked to them yet today. And so that's my passion for FM, that we get to have face-to-face time with young people that we believe in, that we know they have value, that God has value for them, and we get to just equip them to be able to go out into the world and feel more confident in who they are with God, and also share that with other people.
Yeah, the power of a story is so important, and not just the highlight reels. And we say this a lot too, that it's not just all the good things, you know, the social media perception that life is amazing and incredible, but also life is tough, life is challenging, but we have a hope in Christ. And, you know, I was reminded recently of a couple things. The first one being, we've never looked in the eyes of someone that Jesus does not passionately love. The second thing is there's an African greeting that says, it goes two ways. The first one is the person says, I see you. And the recipient says, I'm here to be seen. And just a beautiful reminder that people want to be, like you said, see people, see them, see the value in them. And that's all part of the important part of evangelism, is spending time, having a relationship, sharing your story, sharing how God's made a difference in your life. A couple scriptures come to mind as we get ready to wrap up. 1 Peter 3:15, one of our key verses in evangelism training, but it's always be ready to give a defense to everyone who asks you a reason for the hope that's in you. So first of all, we ought to be acting like we have hope, for people to wonder why we have hope, and do it with meekness and fear. So important, just gentleness. And then also Mark 5:18, there's a story of Jesus, you know, setting this guy free from just oppression. And he said, go home to your family and tell them everything the Lord's done for you and how merciful he's been. So again, tell your story, tell everything God's done for you and how merciful God has been. And that's our heart for FM 419. So as we get ready to clue up, if you want to click the link in our bio, you'll see what FM 419 is. If you're anywhere near these two cities, Sudbury and London, Nicole's going to be with us. Some other trainers are going to be there. We're going to be gathering students, young adults. We're going to be talking about our story. So go to fm419.ca. That's another way to get it, or again, the link in our bio. Nicole, last word, last encouragement to anybody watching this episode that you would like to share. You get the last word. Go for it.
Last word. Wow. Okay. That's a big deal. You know, I was just thinking before I got on, I just as an encouragement, you know, you kind of touched on earlier how things are kind of darker than ever in a lot of ways, of all the things that are going on in the world. And there's a scripture that I used to have, actually, I used to have it written out wherever I would go to, and it's Psalms 23, surely goodness and mercy will follow me all of my days. And just when I think of that scripture, I always think of, I know I already talked about my dog, I know I have issues, but I think about how my dog follows me to every room that I'm in. If I get up from my office, she follows me into the kitchen. She follows me into the living room, the backyard, to the car. Like, she follows me everywhere. I can rely on the fact that she's going to follow me. And so I just to encourage you today that that's what that scripture has been for me, is that reminder. I always think of that goodness following you no matter what room you're in, no matter what issue you're going through, no matter how dark it feels or how scary things are or whatever. It's a promise to us that goodness follows us. And even though it's not always good in that moment, it is around the bend, my friend. Like it is around there, and you just have to keep going with the promise of goodness. Goodness is my promise, and I know it's going to be out there. And so just keep going for it.
Yeah, that's encouraging. Nicole, thanks so much. It's been a real joy to have you and to connect again. And hey, everybody that's watching, just be encouraged. Share your story, build relationships, love people, love your neighbor.
Yeah.
Share your story, share the good news of the gospel as well. And be praying for the students in London and Sudbury. Nicole, can't wait to see you. And thanks, everybody, for joining us. We'll see you next time on Always Good News.
Buddy, love seeing all the names there. I miss so many people. All right, bye, Mark. Thank you.
Okay, take care. See you later.